From huge ancient stone heads to the legendary Stonehenge. Here are 14 strange and mysterious ancient discoveries. 14. Sacsayhuamán. The city of Cusco in Peru was the historic capital of the Inca Empire, and located on its outskirts is this ancient walled complex that dates to the year 1440. That's when an Inca emperor started construction. It took over a century for the complex to be completed and contains stones that weigh hundreds of tons. The longest of 3 walls measures some 400 meters, rising about 6 meters high. Workers cut the massive boulders so precisely that they fit together tightly without mortar and are so precisely spaced that a single piece of paper cannot fit between those stones. Because of its elevated location overlooking Cusco, the complex is often considered a fortress, and it played an important role in military functions. 13. Dropa stones. Now, these mysterious stone discs are said to date back around 12,000 years. Numbering in the hundreds, they measure about a foot in diameter and were allegedly located in China, where they were kept in storage. The discs have 2 spirals, and the grooves were said to contain a series of minute hieroglyphs. When they were allegedly deciphered, the symbols told a story about an extraterrestrial race called the Dropa. The spacecraft apparently visited Earth in ages past, but crash-landed, forcing them to stay and adapt. As you might guess, that story was met with some skepticism at best. Some experts think these objects might actually be Bai discs, which can date to around 3000 BC, and they are constructed from jade and have holes in the centers. Some of them show evidence of grooves and other markings as well, and they were all made in China. 12. Baghdad battery. Now, this actually refers to artifacts that were found in a village near Baghdad in the 1930s. Terracotta pots were discovered that each contained a copper cylinder and an iron rod within. The objects were thought to date back as far as 150 BC, and researchers of the time conjectured that it may have formed a type of ancient battery when assembled. It was thought the pots were filled with grape juice or wine to generate an electrical current between the copper and iron electrodes, resulting in a primitive electrical cell. A number of speculative theories concerning the so-called battery arose over the years, including one that suggested it was evidence of an alien visitation. Modern archaeologists have a more earthbound theory, though. Rather than being used as batteries, the pots were more likely used as a type of container that protected sacred documents from the elements. 11. Bóinne. Also known as Bóinne Palace, this is considered to be one of the most important prehistoric landscapes in the world and covers more than 1,900 acres in Ireland. Humans have settled in the area for more than 6,000 years, but major structures date to around 5,000 years ago. The complex contains Neolithic mounds, standing stones, and chamber tombs, some of which date as early as the 35th century BC, which would even predate the Egyptian pyramids. There are 3 main megalithic sites, and 2 have displayed solar alignments with the winter solstice, and the 3rd is aligned toward the spring and autumn equinox. 10. Carnac stones of France. This dense collection of more than 3,000 standing stones around the village of Carnac comprises the largest such collection in the world, and were thought to have been erected between 4500 and 3300 BC. As to the purpose of those stones, well, there is a variety of theories. Some believe they have some sort of astronomical purpose. It might be related to a calendar system or an observatory. Others feel the stones could have represented prehistoric seismic instruments. That is, the balanced stones could have served as earthquake detectors of a sort. The site is also thought to uphold the idea of the megalithic yard. That is a theoretical common unit of measurement used to construct a majority of megalithic sites. 9. The Phaistos disc. Now, here's an archaeological mystery that was located in 1908 at the site of a palace of Minoan, Crete, and experts think it dates to around the Middle Minoan Bronze Age in the 2nd millennium BC. The disc measures about 6 inches in diameter, both sides of which are covered with symbols pressed into the surface. The symbols spiral in a clockwise direction toward the center of the disc. Archaeologists have counted some 241 symbols made up of 45 unique signs arranged in the spiraling sequence. Despite many attempts at deciphering the disc, it is still unknown what these signs actually represent. Now, some guesses include an alphabet or a logography, which could contain words or phrases. 8. The Piri Reis map. This world map was compiled in 1513, and about a third of it still exists today. The Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis is said to have used Christopher Columbus's maps, which were otherwise lost. It depicts the western coast of North Africa and Europe, as well as Brazil's coastline with impressive accuracy. Adding to its historical importance, the map also shows South America positioned correctly in respect to Africa. The North American coastline is referenced inaccurately, which is not surprising since it was still mostly unexplored at that time. But much of the Caribbean is accurately mapped, and there is also a landmass shown, which some argue represents Antarctica. What do you think? 7. The Antikythera mechanism. This strange device resembled a lump of fused metal and was discovered in a shipwreck by divers off the Greek coast in 1901. The mysterious archaeological find is a device that features a complex clockwork mechanism made up of at least 30 meshing bronze gears. At first, it was thought to be a type of navigational instrument, but it's actually been identified as an ancient analog computer and orrery, which is a mechanical model of the solar system. It's thought the device was used for predicting eclipses and the movements of stars and planets for astrological and calendrical purposes. Researchers think the device was created by Greek scientists and has been dated as far back as 205 BC. 6. Derinkuyu. This ancient multi-level underground city is located in Turkey and extending at a depth of some 200 feet. It is thought that some 20,000 people could have lived here, together with livestock and food stores. In addition, stables, chapels, and storage rooms were also located in the city that covered around 1.5 miles with several levels. Fresh air was circulated to every part of the city via deep ventilation shafts, more than 50 of which have been excavated so far. Experts think the city was initially built from caves in the 8th to 7th centuries BC. It was fully formed by the Byzantine era and was used as a refuge during the Arab Byzantine Wars between the 8th and 12th centuries. While this is the largest excavated underground city in Turkey, it was connected to other underground cities by elaborate tunnels that stretched for miles. 5. Avebury. Did you know the largest stone circle in Britain is not actually Stonehenge? Avebury in southwest England is a Neolithic monument thought to date back to around 2600 BC. Measuring nearly 1100 feet in circumference, it is one of the largest henges in all of Europe. It contains 3 stone circles in all, a large outer circle comprised of a bank and ditch, and 2 smaller separate circles located within that larger one. Experts still are not exactly sure when construction on this monument began, nor what its original purpose may have been. It is speculated that it could have played a role in certain religious rituals, or it may have functioned as a type of astronomical calendar system. 4. Olmec colossal heads. The Olmec civilization of ancient Mesoamerica thrived in what is now southeastern Mexico between approximately 1500 to 400 BC, and one of the Olmec's distinctive features were huge monumental likenesses of human heads crafted from basalt. At least 17 of these sculptures have been found since the 1930s, and all of them portray mature men with fleshy cheeks, broad noses, and eyes that are slightly crossed. Thought to date prior to 900 BC, the smallest work weighs around 6 tons, while the largest is estimated to measure more than 11 feet high and weighs close to 50 tons. 3. Stonehenge. Well, you know, it just did not seem right to leave this famous discovery off a list like this, so let's give the legendary stone circle its due. Stonehenge is undoubtedly the most famous, and on a worldwide scale. Its origins are still unclear, but construction is thought to have occurred in phases from around 3000 to 1500 BC, and there are many theories as to its purpose, including it being used as a burial ground early on. Did you know that around 50,000 cremated human bones have been retrieved from one of 56 holes arranged in a circle there? The high amount of burials found might coincide with the belief that the stones contained curative properties, and the afflicted may have traveled there hoping to be healed. 2. The Terracotta Army. In 1974, an incredible display of funeral art was discovered by archaeologists in China, and some experts believe it could be the greatest such display ever found. More than 8,000 small clay soldiers were uncovered during the excavation of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. Because the Terracotta Army was found buried close to the emperor's tomb, it is thought that they served as a means of protection for any dangers encountered in the afterlife. Along with the soldiers, archaeologists also found various weapons, where they were exactingly lined up along various clay corridors. Many areas of the complex remain unexcavated, and that includes the emperor's tomb. Experts have estimated the age of the complex at some 2,200 years old. 1. The Shroud of Turin. Now this one is certainly well known, but even after its first documented exhibition in 1357, it is still a source of great debate among researchers, historians, and theologians. The rectangular piece of linen cloth is said to be the burial shroud of a man alleged to have been Jesus of Nazareth. Little information concerning the artifact is available prior to the 14th century, and that would correspond to a series of radiocarbon dating tests that dated the material at between 1260 to 1390. Now that, of course, would be long after the crucifixion of Jesus, and that has led to debate that the areas of the cloth sampled might have represented sections that were repaired in medieval times, or were otherwise contaminated enough to skew the findings to yield a more modern date. But the investigations and testing aside, the Shroud of Turin still remains a mystery.